Have you ever known one of those people that's just conniving and somehow they always manage to get what they're after no matter what, and sometimes not always by the most ethical means? But we're going to be talking about that today from Genesis chapter 25. Hey guys, and welcome back to God's Word Made Simple by Simple Servant Ministries. My name is Aaron Hawk, and if this is your first time visiting with us, I just want to say welcome and thank you for joining us today. God's Word Made Simple is an online discipleship ministry dedicated to taking God's Word and making it simple. We want to help you understand God's Word, apply it to your life, and grow in your relationship with the Lord. And by the way, guys, if you appreciate this ministry and this channel, at some point make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn that bell notification to all so you don't miss any future videos. Alright guys, so let's get into the text. Quick background, if you haven't caught it before, catch the previous videos on this at least through chapter 25, if not a little farther back. A quick background, we're getting into Isaac. Now, the irony of Isaac is that we don't hear, Isaac is one of the most pivotal characters in all of the biblical storyline. And yet we don't get a lot of information about him. He's kind of sandwiched between his father and one of his sons who kind of takes the cake when it comes to a memorable character, and not always for the best reasons. But his life is also proof that God can and will use anybody he wants to accomplish his will. All right, so let's get into this. In verse 19, remember, Abraham had passed away not long ago. We went through the descendants of Ishmael in last week's video, and now we're in verse 19 talking about Isaac and his sons. Now, these are the records of the generation of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham became the father of Isaac, so not a huge lineage here. And Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean of Padan Aram, the sister of Laban, the Aramean, to be his wife. Sorry, I can't talk today apparently. Isaac prayed to the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was barren. Now, doesn't that sound familiar? Isaac's mother struggled with this, and Rebekah struggles with this. So how ironic is this that they were not able to have children? And, you know, you could look at this from a scientific perspective and go, I wonder if it was a problem with the men. No, because, one, we're going to talk about inerrancy, I believe, tomorrow. So in the future, there will be a card up here for the video on inerrancy, but that won't come out until, I believe, tomorrow. So if you're watching this video the first day, that card won't be there. After that, hopefully I'll remember to go back and add that card. But also remember that Abraham was able, seemingly instantaneously, to have a child with, oh, well, I never finished my other thought. So anyway, back to the inerrancy thing, though. The Bible does not affirm anything that is false. So it's saying here that the mother, Isaac's mother, was barren, and now Rebekah is barren. It didn't say that simply they weren't able to have children. It specifically said the women were barren. Also, don't forget, Abraham was seemingly instantaneously able to have a child with Hagar and several other women. So it's not that there was a problem with the men. It really was the women that were barren here. And it's a little twist of irony there. I'm not sure what God was doing there with this irony, but it's there. So verse 21, Isaac prayed to the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was barren. And the Lord answered him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. But the children, plural, so 0 to 2, several families out there that I know that have experienced that, 0 to 2 or more. Back to verse 22. But the children struggled together within her, and she said, If it is so, why then am I this way? So she went to inquire of the Lord. So she wasn't sure what was going on. She knew that God had blessed her, but it didn't seem like it with all this stuff going on in her womb. She was probably worried she was going to lose the child or the children if she knew that there were two. So verse 23, the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 people will be separated from your body. And one people shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger. Now this is very odd. This was completely contrary to the culture of this day. In this day, the birthright, the eldest is the one that has the birthright. And it was presumed, and often was the case, that the firstborn, or the first to survive to adulthood, was the strongest. So it's odd that she is already being told that the younger is going to serve the older. This flies in the face of their culture and their understanding of the natural order of things. Okay, so verse 24, when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. Now, not only had God told her this, but I just know through experience, my wife is a nurse, and anybody that's been around pregnancy for a while, at a certain point, you know there's twins in there. There's just too many little hands and feet and so on. But whatever the case, this is just the actual absolute confirmation now that we are post-womb. So when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. Verse 25, now the first came forth red, and all over like a hairy garment, and they named him Esau, which literally just means hairy, so they had a sense of humor, right? That's the hairy one. Okay, verse 26, afterward his brother came forth with his hand holding on to Esau's heel. So his name was called Jacob, which means one who grabs by the heel or supplanter, okay? Which we will learn later 100% perfectly describes his personality. And Isaac was 60 years old when she gave birth to them. So we already have a huge difference in their personalities just by nature of the way that they were born. Now, you could say, Aaron, you're reading too much into that, and under normal circumstances, I would agree with you. But again, when you already know the end from the beginning, it's easy to see those things early on. If you don't know these stories, don't worry about it. You're not supposed to know them yet if you haven't read the Bible, and probably several times to remember this. But fortunately, I have, and that's why I'm helping you grow. Or at least I'm trying. So verse 27, when the boys grew up, so I mean this is like most of Isaac's life has just passed between verse 19 and 27, right? I mean, not that Isaac's completely done here, but we don't have a whole lot more to go on with Isaac past this. So verse 27, when the boys grew up, Esau became a skillful hunter. Remember, he was the firstborn, the hairy one. A man of the field. So, especially back in this day, he's a man's man. This is the kind of kid a dad can be proud of. He's a man of the field, right? The Bible is kind of going at length to express this. Anyone reading this during this time period would have gone, oh, good son, Tim the Toolman Taylor, ha, 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 right? Okay, that was probably a terrible imitation, but if you know that show, you're cool. If not, go watch it on reruns somewhere. All right, so when the boys grew up, Esau became a skillful hunter, a man of the field, but Jacob was a peaceful man living in tents. Now, that was, and you're not supposed to use these terms anymore, but oh well. That was, when I was growing up, we would have called that a sissy boy or a mama's boy, right? This was the one that wanted to hang out where it was cool. There was less strenuous work to do. Now, I'm not saying taking care of a household isn't strenuous. I've done it. Okay, I've been the stay-at-home dad, I've been the stay-at-home guy running a business. But compared to working out in the field, the house was more luxurious, or the tent in this case. And it also calls him a peaceful man, and it implies weakness there. So anybody reading this originally would have gone, okay, one good, strong son, man of the field. And then you got the housemaker, right? Verse 28. Now Isaac loved Esau because he had a taste for game. And go figure, this is the manly man, and Isaac is a manly man. I mean, good Lord, the dude carried the wood that he was to be sacrificed on a long time ago, right? If you don't know that story, it's in Genesis chapter 22. I'll put a card up here for that one so that you can cover that story. But Isaac was no mama's boy. So it stands to reason that he liked the more woodsy son. Plus, it says that he'd had a taste for game. Well, there is a difference between wild meat and raised meat. So, but Rebekah loved Jacob. So, this really isn't that uncommon. One kid gravitates toward the mom, one kid gravitates toward the dad. It's really not that uncommon. And we'll see soon where Jacob gets some of his craftiness from. So verse 29, when Jacob had cooked stew, Esau came in from the field, and he was famished. And we're going to learn here in a minute, like he was beyond hungry, not just famished in the way that we think of it, but as in he should have eaten a long time ago. He is ravenous would probably be a way that we would word this. Okay? And Esau said to Jacob, please let me have a swallow of that red stuff there. Now, I think this is hilarious, for I am famished. I think this is hilarious, right? He doesn't even know what it is. He's probably talking down to his brother a little bit, right? Because he's daddy's favorite. You're just the mama's boy. So he's probably talking down to him a little bit, but we don't really get the sense that Esau is mean. In fact, nowhere near as mean as we later learn that Jacob is. But I can't help but wonder if he's talking down to him a little bit. But regardless, whatever it was that Jacob was cooking, Esau didn't even recognize it. He's just like, dude, give me some of whatever that is. I'm starving. Whatever it is, I'll take some. Therefore, his name was called Edom, red. So his name got changed after this. That's some foreshadowing that this is going to turn out very bad. Verse 31, but Jacob said, first sell me your birthright. Now remember, the birthright, it wasn't just the prestige of being the firstborn. Because remember, in the previous chapters, Isaac was the one who inherited everything from Abraham. In this culture, the firstborn inherited almost everything, if not everything. It would typically pass down from the father to the firstborn. Typically, just like what Abraham did, they would give some of their possessions away to other children, but the vast majority, the lion's share, pun not intended with the man of the field here, the hairy one at that, the lion's share would go to the firstborn. So for a swallow of soup, not even the whole pot, just a little bit, give me some of that stuff, I don't even know what it is, right? Jacob said, first sell me your birthright. Verse 32, Esau said, behold, I am about to die, so of what use then is the birthright to me? Now, this language doesn't do justice to how absurd this must have been. Like, I don't know how Esau allowed himself to get so to the point of near death, like so hungry that he was near death. Like, why wouldn't he have just found something to eat? I don't understand this. I struggle with this. I believe the text 100%. It's very plain what it says. But I just can't imagine allowing myself to get to that point where I'm so starving by choice. I mean, he was out hunting. He could have started a fire, right? But to make the choice that he's willing to sell his birthright for a swallow of some stuff, like that stuff over there, he doesn't even know what it is. So clearly he was so far gone that he wasn't thinking clearly, or he didn't take it seriously, but I think he did, because he goes on to say, so then what use is the birthright to me? In other words, if I'm going to die, I don't get any of it anyway. Now, what kind of low-down, dirty scoundrel is Jacob, one, to even propose something like this, much less to not have pity on his brother after seeing him in this condition? Like, how evil do you have to be to let somebody die or sell you their birthright? Because he could have just given him the soup. They're brothers, for crying out loud. So there is some serious tension between these two. So then verse 33, and Jacob said, first swear to me. So he's like, look, your word isn't good enough. I know you're dying over here, but you got to swear. We got to make this official. So he says, first swear to me. So he swore to him and sold his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and lentil stew, so basically some beans and some bread. And he ate and drank and rose and went on his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. Go figure. He got swindled out of it from his brother. I'd be pretty bitter too. I'd love to say I'm more sanctified than that, but I'd be pretty upset and pretty bitter as well. I don't blame him for despising it. So this is a pretty crazy story, and hopefully you're on the edge of your seat to see what happens next, because if so, you need to hit that subscribe button, turn that bell notification to all, and make sure you don't miss future videos like the conclusion of this story. And guys, joking aside, I'm not joking about hitting subscribe and the bell. Please be sure you do that if you want to catch future videos, but please also hit that like button. And if you appreciate this ministry and these videos, please, down in the description, you can learn how to support us. We definitely would appreciate some support, but I'm looking forward to finishing out this story with you guys. It's going to take a little while. This story drags on for a little bit, but it's pretty funny and sad all at the same time. I mean, Jacob came out of the womb holding on to his brother's heel. The Lord had already told Rebekah what was going to happen. The older would serve the younger. And now we hear and see this story where Jacob sells his brother his birthright. All the stuff that Isaac inherited from Abraham, plus all the wealth that Isaac was able to build after that. He sold his birthright for a piece of bread and some bean soup. If that's not funny, I don't know what is, and sad. All right, guys, thank you very much, and God bless.